off. I want the meeting to be tabled because we're all here right now, but if one of us gets cut off because of technical problems, I think the meeting should be stopped as well.
We'll hope for the best.
Hope for the best.
Let's keep in mind that when one person speaks, let's wait like a second or two in between, so that way we're not talking over each other. Okay, Gary, why don't you start off with any other comments that you have for these streetlights? We do have engineer stuff, information.
So under Article 1, based on what was proposed, Selectman Warren came in with some alternatives for different fixtures and discussion about, maybe having taller poles, or I guess the discussion, kind of recap where we were at our last meeting, was that we were looking at a different style fixture, potentially swapping out the poles to have taller poles. We had a general idea of what we were looking for a different fixture, as opposed to the fixture that has an arm pointing down. Is more of a candle, sort of a lantern style fixture that Dave was proposing. So what we did is we had our engineers vet those products, and in your agenda pack are the comments that were provided by the engineers on those products. And I think one of the strongest concerns that the engineers had, and this was based not only on their professional opinion, but the opinion of the suppliers who made the products, such as the aluminum poles, for instance, that those were not a durable pole like the cast pole that we have, or the cast pole that is one of the options that was proposed here. I think it's a cost of $2,000 for a cast pole as opposed to aluminum. And the issue with aluminum was that it wasn't as durable. If it were to get hit, it would likely cause the pole to fail. And the paint, after a couple of years, aluminum oxidizes easily, and the paint has a hard time adhering to it after that oxidation starts to set in. And that's kind of like why, the aluminum poles are frowned upon for these fixtures. And so the engineers put together some comments. I basically copied and pasted the email correspondence that I had with them. I put it on a blank Word document, and I shared that with you. And then on the second page of your Article 1, you see the costs broken. You see the breakdown of the quantities of the poles and the fixtures and the unit prices, and what the costs were to be if we went with the different options. So with that said, we have, let's see if this shows up or not. The old style, or the one that was originally proposed that's in the contract right now, was this fixture right here with the downward pointing light on an arm. That caused some concerns there were concerns about how that would look and how it would interfere with the ability to move around, if you will, with equipment and whatnot. And then this is the just a generic, more picture, if you will, our concept, our drawing of the lantern style fixture that is being proposed. And so that gives you an idea of the different styles of fixtures we're now looking at. Some of the comments were that, this is a more costly fixture. This one is, I think, $1,500, which includes the arm. This one is about $600. There's no arm. Then you have the prices for the poles. You have the prices for refurbishing the poles that we have, and whatnot. So with that said, I leave it up to you guys to talk. You have all the information that I'm looking at. I've kind of explained it generically for the people who are watching this video. I think the lighting equivalent is pretty close to the same based on the lighting comparison, if you will, which is this for showing the light patterns. And the engineers felt that a taller pole was not necessary for more lighting. They felt that the height was going to be good. I'm not a professional here. I'm just going on what was presented, and that's going to be for you guys to decide what you want to do. If we were to replace the pole and put the cast iron pole, sorry, and then put the new Hall of Fame fixture, the lantern style fixture, and then we have the granite bases that we would have to replace to meet the, we're looking at $140,000, $148,22. That's just for the poles and the fixtures. That's not the contractor, the labor and all that stuff. That's just cost of that product, if you will. If we were to use the new Hall of Fame fixture on our existing pole, it's showing that cost would be $69,072. So that takes into account a savings, I guess. If we were to go with the lantern style fixture, there would be a savings from what we currently have under contract for those materials.
Okay, thank you. Dave, we'll give you a chance.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
Okay. If you look on the first page on your packet there, talks about.
Show me that page, Dave. What are you talking about? Okay.
Comments page.
Yeah, Article 1. Yeah, page.
Okay. It mentions that it has multiple moving pieces, and I disagree with him. There are no moving pieces on that light fixture. I don't know where he's getting multiple moving pieces. Okay. As far as the cheaper aluminum series, I talked to the people that sell these fixtures. They have them all over the state of Maine, and he said if you're concerned about the finish and whatever, he says you can get up to a 10-year warranty on that fixture. Okay, if you think that's a problem. When I mentioned a 14-foot pole, there was a lot of other measurements that were not talked about. One is the granite base that goes under the pole, and of course the other piece is the light that goes on top of the pole. And all the communities that I would say all the communities except Presque Isle around this area all have a 14-foot or higher fixture, but that's including the fixture. It's not just the pole, because sometimes it's hard to tell where the pole stops and the fixture starts. So what I had measured myself personally is to the top of the fixture to the ground was 16 feet would be the optimal height for that fixture. Now, anybody understands that if you put a light a little higher off the ground, it's going to spread a lot better. You're going to have more light, I feel, into the street where our crosswalks are, where we seem to have had some problems in the past. People don't see the people crossing on the crosswalks. Well, I think the height would certainly help that. Is that the only way we can do it? Probably, you can probably, I don't want to use the word cheat, but that's all I can think of right now. With some of the LEDs can be directed more horizontally, to maybe have the same spread, but I believe that's going to cause a problem of glare for people that are coming down the road in their cars, which we've already had some complaints about, too much glare. The nice thing about both of these two new lights are that they're not, you're not looking at the bulb, you're looking at the fixture, and it's a downlight it's kind of like an umbrella kind of lighting. So anyways, to me, the height's very important. There was an issue about the height being too high on the south side of Main Street. Well, all your fixtures on your street corners that have more than one light on them, all those posts that have more than one light on them, are already at 16 feet high. That's the height that all our posts should be at. And the wires is not an issue because there's still plenty of room between the light and the wiring. Okay. The other thing that I liked about the Hall of Fame fixture is that it's centered on the pole, and there are no issues of which way this light's going to point. There's only one way to put it on. There's less of a chance for trucks or graders to hit it because it doesn't come over the curbing like the Kim light would. And to point the Kim light in any other direction but towards the center of the road, to me, will look, will not do the job that they're saying this light fixture is doing at this point. It will change the whole lighting pattern. Putting it in the same direction of traffic, it will look awkward. Putting it towards the buildings, I think, will look even more awkward. And then you're going to have to deal with shadows from the pole because now it's behind the pole towards the street. As far as snow removal and snow plows hitting a light fixture, there is no hesitation that the light fixture will lose. It doesn't matter what kind of light fixture you put there, hit it with the snow plow, the fixture is gone, you're gonna have to put a new one on. So the only issues that we've had in the past with snow and the weather bothering these lights was mostly the salt. And I believe these existing fixtures were on the sidewalk, I think, for about 10 years before they decided to take them off the sidewalk and put them on granite bases because the bolting patterns or the place where the post is bolted to the anchor bolts were all rusting out. And I have not verified how bad that rust is today because these are still the same posts. So we don't know if these bolting circles are in good shape or not. I hope I'm not taking too long here, but I had a whole list of things to talk about. The engineer mentioned a light color of 30K, which is a more yellowish light than a 40K. And like I think I've told some of you before, the ones in Edmundston are using a light of 40K. It's a little bit wider. I think it's a little bit crispier. I think it would do a much better job especially when the pavement is wet or when it's rainy or that kind of a deal. Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about the specs on each fixture after talking with the salesman. The one that I proposed, the Hall of Fame fixture, is a 46-watt fixture with approximately 4,700 lumens. That's the light capacity. Okay. And compared to the other one, which is 62 watts, and it only puts out 3,600 lumens or 3,700 lumens in that range. So as you can see, there is we get 25% more light with the holophane, and it's using 16 watts less per fixture. To me, changing a light and not changing the pole is a little bit like buying a new car, putting new tires on it, old tires on it. Somewhere along the line, we're already spending over $800 to get these poles back cleaned up. I don't know. I think it would make a lot better installation and for a longer term, because remember, we're trying to get these fixtures to last 20 to 30 years. And by that time, these posts will be closer to 60 years old. I don't know if halfway through that, we're going to have to change some posts, because these are older posts. And I think that pretty well sums up most of what I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
The only thing left for me to say is that I still recommend the holophane light. I still recommend that we go higher than our existing poles, and that we be consistent with the height of all of our poles. Because right now we have short ones and we got taller ones. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dave. Doug, do you have anything to talk about on those lights? All right.
You know, we certainly are considering the idea of refurbishing these poles, and we've gotten, I don't know if this is an estimate that we see in front of us, but there are figures that were given to us here some time back that looked like around $500. Here now we're up to $800. That's starting to weigh on me a little bit when we start considering an older pole against a newer pole. You know, I don't know where this $800 comes from, if it's an actual figure or it's an estimate again. Dave, I think that's a great call with these holophane lights. I mean, I see a major difference in price there, and just that alone to me is swaying me considerably. I guess I'm a little bit unfamiliar with lights, and I'm thinking that these two types of lights are just basically that. They're just different lighting fixtures. The difference in the prices are just the fixtures and not necessarily how much light they put out. Is that correct, Dave?
Well, the holophane light will put out more light, 25% more light at 46 watts. And the other one, the Kim light, is 3,600 lumens at 62 watts. So you're getting 25% more light, and you're saving 16 watts by using the holophane fixture.
Well, there's a major difference in price too here. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm thinking I'm certainly leaning in that direction. I can't answer for how long some of these poles are going to last, the ones that we have, if we refurbish them. Again, I mean, I like the idea of the cost. If it was closer to $500 than $800, because then it starts to make a little more sense to me. $800 is an estimate to me. Now that's an approximate, and you can see a 10-20% increase on that, or 1,000 maybe more, and now it's starting to look like, why do we want to bother with old poles? You know, so I don't know how close that figure is. I don't know if that $800 is a correct figure or not. Gary, I don't know if you can.
We were told that the cost to refurbish was somewhere around $550 a pole. So I think, you know, the 800 is probably on the high side for the refurbishing of the poles. I would have to go back and verify with them to see what's more close. The I mean, it wouldn't be more than $800 a pole. It would be more along the lines of,
What did the contractor give you just a lump sum total?
yes. But I think that the engineers in their analysis, when they were trying to determine whether refurbishing was, I mean, they looked at the poles and they said, they're in pretty good shape. They're not that old. Let's take a look at them and let's first of all see if they're still good. And they determined that they were, and I said, okay, fine, but we do want to refinish them, sandblast them, and put the new coating on them. What is that going to cost? And so we've been told all along that cost was somewhere in the vicinity of $550, but it's not broken down in the bid itself. It's was sort of an internal discussion that the engineers had with the contractor, and they put that all together. So, but we were told all along, and Keith, help me chime in here if that's your recollection of it, but it seems to me we were somewhere in the 550 range for refurbishing the poles.
That number sounds right.
The number sounds right, Keith? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 550 is what I was thinking too. I remember that being somewhere near there.
Okay, thank you. Lori, do you want to?
Can we maybe talk about, let's see if we all agree on the fixture and, as far as the poles go, if we go, I have some questions about height. So, I mean, are we all in agreement that we're looking at that new fixture?
That's when it was my turn. That's exactly what I was going to ask. And the Hall of Fame fixture for me is probably what I'd like to see also. So do you feel that the Hall of Fame is what you'd like to see also too, Lori?
Yes, and I don't know enough about the height and all of those things, and I thought we kind of should decide which fixture we're looking at first, because that's 31 inches versus the other one, and then we can talk about height. I feel like Doug, I was originally saying it does not make sense to get new poles. Let's just refinish the ones we have. But all of a sudden, the price seems to have gone up by $250 a pole between the last meeting and this one. So that's a little question for me.
Can I also say something?
Well, hold on, Dave. Let Lori finish her, and then
Okay.
I'd like to throw my
Lori.
in after, and then we'll more.
As far as refurbished versus new, guys, listen, I don't know about sandblasting and redoing poles and all of these other things. It obviously does look cheaper to use the existing one. I'm kind of listening to what you guys are saying, and I'm gonna lean toward the majority here, because it's not like I have any expertise of how long these will last and how what they're gonna do. I do like that fixture better though.
Yeah, I agree. Doug, you like that Hall of Fame light fixture?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so we're all on the same page for the fixture.
Yep.
Okay, let me throw in my 5 cents worth, and I'm hope I'm looking at the same sheet when you say to refurbish the existing poles. You're looking at, let's say, what that number is in front of us here is 800. They recall 550. Let's say it's 600. Say that's more of a realistic number. Let's say. Then if we refurbish everything, we put the new Hall of Fame fixtures, and we do that. There's a little over $70,000 difference just on materials if we keep the existing and refurbish them at $800 existing pole reverberation. So if it's close to the 600, that price goes down by 200 by another $6,000. And now we're down to roughly 23,000. So take 6,000 on that, we're down to 63. So I look at that and say, well, boys, there's still a considerable savings there, 70, almost $80,000 savings to keep what we have and refurbish it, going along with definitely on the new lamp fixtures, the Hall of Fames.
Can I just ask something?
Go ahead.
I mean, to replace one of these poles, let's say that we have a pole here that that's aged differently than others and the bolts are rusting. Can we not just come in and replace one pole here 2 or 3 years down the road? I mean, is it
Right
is it a
now?
big? No. I mean, if it did happen, if we use some of these refurbished poles and we had a problem with it 2 or 3 years down the road, the
We still
bolt
have-
broke. The bolt's broke, and we need to replace it.
We have spares still.
So that's not a big deal.
We have spares in inventory. I don't know how much though, but I know that we have, Kevin tells me we have a decent stock of spares. And the other thing too is we're going to be eliminating a number of lights, a handful, which is going to add to our inventory as well for poles and bases. Should we
So I
decide?
guess the answer to my question is that this would not be a costly deal to replace a pole if the bolt's broke.
No,
No,
Okay.
but you still have the light fixture and you have the spare pole. So it's just the labor, involved in replacing it at that point. Dave, I said I'd go back to you. Go ahead.
I talked to the contractor on how is he gonna take the poles out and refurbish them and paint them and do all that and not leave the town in the dark while we're doing this. And his answer to me was, well, what we can do is do every other one. Okay, and try to limp along for, I don't know how many, a couple of days anyways, 2 or 3, maybe even a week, and then get the new poles installed and then do the other one. So we'd be about maybe, I'm guessing a little bit here, 2 weeks with half the poles installed, okay? So that's something to be taken into account if we're going to use the old posts. The other thing is, I understand that there was going to be some poles moved around. So I've not, I don't know anything about poles being moved around or poles being eliminated. I have no idea what that's all about. To me, the height again is critical on getting that light to spread out to the street. And to me, the 3 choices on the posts that you've been given are certainly not the only choices we have. So because apparently one of the posts had a bigger base, in your price comparison, they added 37 new granite bases at a cost of $44,400. And so to me, if we could find a fixture with a base that accommodates the bases that we have now, that cost would not be in there at all. Or it would be on the next block down. They're going to replace 10 because I believe there's 10 that are broken or something along those lines. So these are, I mean, the post itself, one of them was a cast aluminum. The other one was just an aluminum post. Some of them were tapered. And I'm sure there's other makes and kinds that we could have that would accommodate our bases along those lines. So I don't think the price difference would be, we'd probably end up spending $1,000 per fixture more by getting a new post, is what I'm trying to get at.
Following your math on that, if that's the case, then we're looking, if we did that, we're still looking at $37,000 to $40,000 more.
That's correct.
Then
Then
what I'm looking at with 70.
We'd
What
have
you're
a
saying.
brand new pole on a brand new light at a higher light for this light to spread out over. Yes.
Yeah.
And the height is
Well-
also critical in that when you're coming down the street, if you're, especially with the ones we have now, but this next one's not as bad but the higher your light's going to be, the less line of sight that you will have that light in your eyes. And of course, when our lights were 35 feet in the air, we never had that issue because they were so high. And they spread out so much that it lit everywhere. And that's why height is so important.
All right. Let's keep in mind also that the people that are giving us, at least most of us, Dave did a lot different type of homework, but the engineers that we're paying to get some of this work done for us, to give us their recommendations, are basically saying there's nothing wrong with our existing poles. Some refurbishing, and it'll take care of those issues. I'm still looking at that bottom line, folks. It's half the price to refurbish and to put in the new light fixtures, the holophane, which supposedly would give us a better light. But it's the fixture, the poles that seems to be dragging a little bit, or dragging us to this type of discussion here. I don't know, Dave. I'm leaning to keeping what we have and going with the new Hall of Fame fixture versus the Hall of Fame fixture and pole. Anyone else want to chime in on this?
Not knowing any better, really at this point, I mean, we're taking the advice of the engineers, and we're also taking Dave's advice. I mean, he's brought some great points here that we all need to consider, but I just don't see the rationality to have to jump to a new pole. I still would work with the poles that we have. They're easy enough to replace. We have some spares. I know Dave is questioning the height. I don't know that the height is a big issue. If somebody was going to tell me that this is critical to what we're doing, I would listen. But from the information I have now, I don't see it. Nobody is telling me different. The engineers don't seem to be that concerned about it. So I would be in favor of going with the old poles and the Hall of Fame lighting.
Okay, Lori, do you have any other comments before I ask for a motion to give us a direction as to which way we want to go with this?
If there's a guarantee, or if you're telling me that you're sure that all of a sudden this quote for refurbishing the old poles is not going to next week be $1,000 or $1,200, I'm leaning toward the old pole as well. My thinking is two things, three actually. Don, you're right about the money. We're not in a position right now to just, add to it because of something we think. I respect Dave a lot, and I think, Dave, that you've got something there, but then I question why in the first place were the poles on the opposite, on the, what is it, the north side, or I'm geographically challenged, but on one side of the street were shorter to begin with. And when you drive down the street, there are buildings there. The wires are right there, almost on the light.
On the south side.
On south. Okay, there we go. I'd have to say that I would go with the new fixture with the old pole as well.
Well, I'm going to ask at this point then, is there a motion to go that route? With the new Hall of Fame? Was that
Are we
it?
voting on the whole thing, or are we voting that separately?
For example, what do you mean separately?
Well, the light fixture and then the pole, or how's that going?
Well, I think the motion should, whoever wants to make the motion should include the pole. If it's going to be a change and go with a new pole, then that motion would include a new pole. If they want to make a motion that includes refurbishing the old poles but going with the Hall of Fame fixtures, then that motion should be made that way.
So you need a motion, is that it?
Yes, I would.
Well, then I'll make the motion that we go with the with Dave's suggestion with the Hall of Fame lights with the old pole.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, Lori, is there any more discussion to be had?
I want to make sure though that we check on the quote for these polls.
Say that
That-
again, Lori.
I want to make sure that if we're gonna vote on this, we're gonna check on that quote, on the polls, on the refurbishing,
Gary,
and let's just make
doable?
sure.
Gary, is that doable, what Lori
Yeah.
just said?
Yep.
Okay, if everything checks out, then that motion will stand. If it's voted,
One more thing for discussion. Can we add, the white lighting that Dave is talking about? Can
The
we do that
40
all in? Do we need another motion?
40K.
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna be using that 40, that, Hall of Fame.
40,
light.
yeah, it's a 46K is what comes with that Hall of Fame.
and that's
No,
it, that's with that fixture. That's not just the difference of what,
No. that
No,
comes
the
with
light
that.
color or the intensity of the light is 40. The one that I suggest is 40K, like they have in Edmundston.
but is that automatically part of this fixture?
No, you can choose your, yes, it is, but you can
Okay.
choose the color of your fixture.
Okay,
The color of the light, I should say. So the engineers suggested 30K, and I would suggest to go a little brighter at 40K, like they do in Edmundston.
Okay, Gary, you got that?
I got it.
So Doug, your motion would be, Lori, you all set? for
yeah,
now?
sorry.
Okay, so Doug's motion would be that we go with the new Hall of Fame fixture and existing poles with the, what do you call it, the 40,
The light
what-
color,
light color 40?
40K.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, Lori, you're seconding that motion? As is?
Yeah, if Doug's okay with changing that to the 40.
Okay, I'm okay with that too. So
Absolutely. Yep.
let's take a vote, do one at a time with a yes or a no, so then we don't say, hey, all in favor or whatever. So Doug, you're in favor?
Yes,
Lori?
Yes,
Dave?
And this is a whole package deal that we're voting on, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Okay, and I'm in favor. So it's unanimous. So we are gonna put this one to rest. This will be the marching orders to the contractor to start work on these streetlights. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, folks, on Article 1. Now,
you know, Dave, you just saved us a bunch of money there, huh?
What's that?
I'm just saying, you just saved us a bunch of money.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm acknowledging that, and I'm thanking you for doing that work because that's a big hunk of change. So thank you.
absolutely, Dave, it's true. You brought this discussion to a new level, a new perspective for all of us, a new understanding. That's great. That's great.
Doug, I thought you were putting in a plug for Geico for a second.
Oh, well.
You
Okay,
wait,
let's go to,
you wait.
okay, Article 2. To consider the downtown revitalization pocket park project amendments. Let's take the first part, which would be the 11th Avenue pocket park with the change orders that we had discussed. Maybe Gary, could you summarize again, based on our last conversation, that we were trying to eliminate, the whatever you want to call that thing in the middle here there, and then redo that. Engineers have looked at this and removing that center island and paving and whatever. At the end of the day, is everyone going to be happy with what what we see here?
Okay, so I'll, okay, did you want me to expand out, Don, or on that or not? Are you?
Yeah, expand on that a little bit more, yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can grab this, if this shows at all. That probably not gonna be a good visual there, but essentially from where we had, hold on, our meeting with the planning board, There was a lot of discussion that looked at whether or not this little bump out in the corner of the parking lot was a good thing to have there. Some people felt that, you know, either that was it was going to be in the way, or we were wasting money. There was discussion about removing this island, which was serving as the delineation for the pull-through parking areas, because this little island would be in the way in the winter months and it would make it hard for some of these cars to pull out, or the longer SUVs, if you will, and pickups. So we left that meeting with basically what we thought were three things that we were looking for: was possibly eliminate this, get rid of this altogether, and then the addition of some street lights, some lamp posts here or here, to illuminate this area. Now, this one here is pretty straightforward. We can pull that out. No big deal at all. There's going to be a cost savings to that. This one here, and you're not going to see this on this map, if you will. But this.
Are we looking at, Gary? Are we looking at the thing from Lark Studio, CL-101?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so if we're all looking at that same thing, CL-101.
Yep.
We're all there?
Yep.
Yes.
So when we talked with the contractor and the engineers, so okay, what would it mean? What would it mean to eliminate this bump out area and just extend that retainer wall and then come down, and that would stay either paved, or we could still curb it or whatever, maybe plant some grass there instead of doing the shrubbery. Now, the contractor has already ordered the retainer wall for that length, and it's specific to that length of wall. So if we were going to add some length to that, it's not clear what that would cost. But what this serves, this thing, it's hard to see it from this paper, if you will. It serves as a transition area for some elevation. There's probably a 5 to 6 foot elevation in that corner. It's the tallest area in this whole map. And then this area starts going downhill towards Main Street. Okay, so 11th Ave here, this driveway goes up, and this serves as a transition, if you will. And what would it mean if we were to eliminate that? And so you have some comments that I basically copied and pasted, like I said, my emails to the engineers.
So what you're talking about?
Yep.
Is that the Article 2 on page Article 2?
Yep. This is the 11th Ave Pocket Park comment change order comments.
Okay.
And so his comments were that grading would be, so I'll read from it. It says, hi Brent, let's discuss the elimination of the corner bump out area. I'm sure that there's more than one reason for having that bumped out corner area. The most obvious is prevent cars from being blocked in. You know, if you're parked in that middle and you got cars on each side, you're not going to be able to pull out of there. I'd like to hear what the issues are if we were to remove and pave this area. My comment was the only benefit I see by removing it was that it would allow for a little bit of more storage snow, area to store snow in the winter months. In my recollection of the discussion, that was one of the facts, the basis that we wanted to maybe have that removed. So both that and then from a cost standpoint. And then I submitted to him, basically, you'll have that in your packet, what I sort of outlined as the areas. It's their C101, CL101, but I highlighted those areas and I inserted comments, what we were thinking about doing, and I wanted him to provide comments to us. And he's done so. So his comments were that grading would be affected. The retaining wall between the driveway to the south and the parking lot may need to be extended. The top of the wall is what he's reading are elevations, 579.8. Bottom of the wall is 575.0 to 575.5. Grades at the east end of the wall.
4 foot elevation.
Yep.
Okay.
Grades at the east end of the wall are currently blend into the bumped out corner to transition between top and bottom. If they eliminate the bump outs and pave it, they'll have to extend the wall, possibly to the building on the adjacent lot, which would assume require at minimum a construction easement, maybe likely a permanent easement. And he basically told you to look at CO 101. So you broke that down into change order cost estimates to remove the center island, which I think everybody's pretty much on board with that. We would reduce the landscaping would be reduced by $1,260, $500 less of curbing. We would have to add some paving in there because that's an area that we wouldn't pave, so that would increase that. So there would be a credit of about $1,010 to remove that. Add 2 refurbished light poles with bases and new light fixtures per bid item number 3 on the lighting project, which is what we just talked about. And I may be, oh, here it is. And they're putting in a cost of $11,550 each times 2. That would add $23,100 to the contract. We have not put lighting in there in the bid, in the contract. It's something that came up after that we thought with all of the use that parking lot is getting by people parking to go to the senior center for the winter activities there for the music in the park, that we probably would like to have some better lighting there. $23,000 is a bit of a price tag to do that. But that's what they projected for the cost for that. Number 3 is eliminate landscaping and install loom and seed in place. That's that corner piece that that transition area in the corner. So you'd get a credit of $1,260 for the landscaping. You'd have to buy loom and seed for $450, so you'd have a net credit of $810. That's just if you take the landscaping out of that, but you leave the bumped out area there, okay? So just basically a grass panel is what it would be. And then if you extend the retainer wall, remove the curbing, remove landscaping, pave eliminated island area, design, provide, and install additional retaining wall, $5,425. Then you would remove the curbing, get a credit of $400 there. The landscaping credit would be $1,260. You would add some paving in, obviously, and then about $400. So the net, if you will, by doing it that way, would be about $4,515 if we were to extend the wall and pave that whole area instead. And it would require us to get some easements on the property, not behind, immediately behind the park, if you will, or the parking area, but the abutting ones to the west, to the east, to the east. Yeah.
The east, yeah.
Southeast. So roughly in round numbers, we're looking at a rough increase if we go through 1, 2, 3, and 4, and did everything that's recommended at 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're looking at roughly $24,000 increase to the project, not counting any of those easements that we may have to get.
Right.
So looking in the ballpark of what, $25,000 net increase overall?
Right.
Lori,
Don,
go ahead.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
The with the lights, you know, we just decided to go with some cheaper ones and use our own poles. You said we have extra poles. Do you know what kind of lighting that this amount of money is quoting?
We're going to be using the same Hall of Fame fixtures that we just approved. I think we would use the old poles and bases, recycle those out, get them refurbished, and put those there. But you know, I think the cost, Lori, that's
More
involved,
labor.
It's the conduit, getting the conduit in the ground up from Main Street, because presumably this would be all connected to the town's to the photo cell control system that lights up the lights at dusk.
The existing lights that are there now.
We're gonna have some lights in the Pocket Park there along the sidewalk, and they're gonna have to put a meter in or to get some electricity in that little park somehow. And I find that the price of two pole fixtures for $23,000 is borderline obscene. First of all, where are you going to put the light posts? In the middle of the parking lot somewhere where somebody's going to back over them. It was okay when you had an island. You could have put one on the island probably, but now that's all open parking. There's really not a good place to put a pole fixture anywheres. And I would suggest strongly that we use the wood pole that's on the corner of the lot next to 11th Avenue and just put one Cobra light in the posts to light that whole area. And that would probably be at a cost of $1,000 would be probably more than enough to pay for that light fixture there.
Dave, are you talking about the pole, the wooden pole that's on 11th Avenue where the old apartment building was?
That's correct.
Isn't there something discussion that Amira wanted to cut that pole out?
Okay, so
Cut it down?
so yeah, we'll talk about that. So I tend to agree with Dave. I think that $23,000 for two posts
Is a lot
of money.
as well, yeah.
And I think we could get by with a corporate head up there. But I think the discussion to put lights there was serving two purposes. It was on those little islands that we now took one out of, and we were going to put in there to provide lighting, but then also to provide something visual so that people would see that they can't back up there because there's a post that they would see more than an island. So now that we've taken one out, I think it makes sense to just go with the corporate head, one of the islands out. The pole that's there, Dave, I don't know if you've seen that pole. It doesn't, Emera is not on that pole anymore. It's only Time Warner Cable. And that pole is, I think that was put there when the town of Madawaska was born, because that thing is it's an antique. It's an old tree, looks like.
I thought it was a newer pole on that corner.
No, not that
No.
one.
You know, Dave, let me just jump in for a second, Gary.
Yep.
They what they did a couple years ago is they actually installed a pole to replace the one that we are discussing right now. They 4 feet off the corner of my building because they were tearing it down. They wanted to take it down.
Right,
Okay.
I remember that conversation, that's right, that's why I was saying that, yeah.
But there's still that old tree pole, if I'm going to call it a tree pole, that's there.
Okay.
That has to come down, but we have to work with Spectrum because the line comes down and then it cuts across, I think, to Newberry Street. And Spectrum's going to have to do some work there because that pole can't stay where it's at. But it would be, either we could put a light on the pole that's closer to Doug's building, or we replace the pole that's there, the old pole that would need to be replaced, and we put the light fixture there, over to the top of the parking lot.
Either corner would work.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, Dave. I think you're right. I think that eliminates that 23 and brings that down, worst case scenario, just a couple $1,000 versus 23,000.
Well, yeah, Cobra Light is like $300 in installation, and electricity should be easy enough to bring to the poles from somewheres. And there you have it. You have a light.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions right now before I ask to put this to a motion?
Yes, are we all the four little square circles or whatever, are we eliminating all of these, or what are we voting on here?
So the circles, Dave, are not, that I put on there, are just highlight the areas that we've discussed. The only areas that we are eliminating or changing are the center island in CL 101, in that pull-through parking area. And
Just
then,
one center island?
yeah,
GL 101,
right in the middle.
David, if you look at my comments there in that smaller sheet of the CL 101 that I provided to the engineers,
Yeah, I got it.
you'll see that my comments are in there, if you will, which is this, which says to
Okay, I see eliminate there.
eliminate So eliminate this right here.
So we're gonna eliminate the one in the middle and the one in the corner.
Correct. If you want to extend this out here. If you don't want
The
to
corner,
provide it.
the other corner. Lift up your paper.
So this right here, Dave, was just an area that we talked about potentially
lift it up
adding
a little
like,
higher. I can't see it. Lift it up a little higher. Yeah. That one there is gonna stay there by 11:10, right?
that's going to stay. But the only reason why
Okay.
I circled that, Dave, is because we thought maybe we were going to put a light fixture there.
How about the next one on 11:10? Is that staying there?
That's staying there because we had, I think when we talked with the planning board, we felt like that was going to serve as a good way to direct traffic. One of these was going to be in, one of these was
Yeah.
going to be out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about the middle one and we're talking about the other corner.
Correct.
Okay.
Lori, did you, with your visual right now, were you trying to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank
No, sorry, my chair just makes noise.
you. Okay, so we're all understanding that particular pocket park off 11th Avenue is with removal of the center island, putting a new light off an existing pole somewhere to provide the lighting there. That would decrease that additional cost. And we're looking at extending we'd be looking at extending the retaining wall, which would be roughly $4,500 to blend it better.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if we're all on the same page, is there someone that would like to make a motion?
Before we do that, if we could just consider that corner again there for a second. I mean,
Which corner, Doug? Next to the Gogans?
the one to the far corner, the one that was questioned for elimination there, the one that we've been discussing, the one that's way over on the far corner.
This one right here.
Yes, that one right there.
Which one? Show me again.
I'm pointing at it.
Gary's
I
pointing at it.
don't see it.
Well, how do I
Gary,
tell him?
Gary, show your picture again.
I am.
Okay, right now we see it.
So anyway, I mean,
Okay, yeah, okay.
So I guess my question is we're doing this renovation and adding cost to this for the reason that what? That we're going to increase the parking? Is that the whole reason why we're doing this?
No, mostly I think it's for maintenance. If they're going to be cleaning snow in that area, that's one of the places where they could possibly store the snow over a 2 or 3 storm period and then come back at a later time and pick up that snow and haul it out. I think it would act as a place to store snow. If not, then this parking lot would have to be cleaned every snowstorm, just like Main Street, and the snow would have to be hauled out at every snowstorm, which makes it a little bit more work for our crew. So that corner there could be used to store snow over a 2 or 3 storm period, and that's the reason for that. Yeah.
And so the rest of the year, it serves more or less as just a parking area.
It probably would not be parking because you have parking in each direction, and anybody parks in there would be boxed in.
So we're just going to basically keep the same size as we see it now, but we're just going to grass it.
We're going to hot top it.
You're going to hot top it and grass it, right? There's a little corner there that you're going to grass, or is it all going to be hot top?
It would all be paved.
It'll all be paved. Okay. Okay. Well, so you know that during the regular course of the year, other than wintertime, there are times that this parking lot's going to get real busy. You're going to have people trying to park right in that corner.
You know, we could probably do some box planters or something there, you know, aesthetically, if we wanted to in the summer months,
Yeah.
something that we can remove.
Yeah, well, you know, they're not gonna park there too many times if they get boxed in, right? And if there's white lights,
Yeah.
white lines, if there are white lines on the pavement, it tells them where to park and where not to park. If they don't want to follow those rules, they'll get boxed in and that's it, you know? And like you say, Gary, you could always put a planter in there for the summer months.
Yep.
It's a good idea.
Matter of fact, I think my motorcycle would fit in there too. That'd be a good place to park my motorcycle.
No, that's not a, seriously though, Dave, that's an idea that we could actually define that as motorcycle EV parking.
Can you put my name on there first?
We'll see. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. All right.
Okay.
So any other questions?
No
Okay, is there a
questions.
motion to accept as proposed? That we, as how we agreed upon in our discussions?
Can I make a motion?
Yes, you can, David.
I make a motion that we eliminate the middle island and the corner island where we can store snow, and that it be paved and walled so that it can be usable year round. And also to add one Cobra light to the area.
Okay.
Can I, before you,
Is there a second?
Second.
I second. I thought Gary wanted to add something first.
I'll wait for the second and we can have discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Lori, Doug seconded that motion. Okay,
No,
Lori.
Lori seconded.
Yeah, Lori did?
Yep.
Okay. Gary, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe get some guidance as to where we should put the Cobra head. Are we going to replace the old tree pole on the top of the parking lot? Or are we just going to eliminate that altogether and use the pole, the new pole that's down by Doug's? I think it would illuminate better up on above. We're gonna, and in doing so, number one, that old pole has to come out because, and we're gonna have to talk to Spectrum, and they're gonna have to reroute all their wires. And that's their thing.
What is the new pole behind Doug's doing right now?
So what happened, Dave, is when Doug used to get his power from the pole, there used to be a pole right on the corner of the laundromat building, okay?
Okay.
And it needed to come down to take that building down. And so what we did is we put a pole down further. The building on the corner there is getting its power. Was it underground? Was it? No, it was above.
You mean between the two?
Yeah.
Between the two poles? You know, I'm not sure.
There was some underground utility there, but anyway, long
Yep.
story short, we moved that pole down there so he could get, Doug, now that building there on the corner gets their power from Main Street now, as opposed to coming
Okay.
down off of
Okay.
St.
And
Thomas.
going to your building, Doug, is that overhead? That's overhead from the pole to your building?
Yes, although it does make its way underground too.
Mhm.
They dug in along the side of my building there last year and went in underground from there. As
On
far as
11th.
on 11th, right? As far as the electrical is concerned, but
So you're probably saying from the meter down, it goes underground.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
But
So
there's
yeah,
a-
that would not be a big problem to move that pole somewhere else in that same vicinity. And I think we should use our best discretion for better lighting. If it needs to stay there, fine. If not, try to put it on the upper corner.
Okay.
Yeah, that one can be worked out. The rest of it, I think, makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any more discussion? If none,
The
all
only,
in
the
favor,
only
Dave?
discussion I have, Don,
Oh,
the only discussion I have, Don, is I hope that we're doing all this work on land that is under our control, under the town's control.
I think, except for a couple of easements, Dave, that we talked about as a possibility we may need to get.
Okay,
But yeah, we're not buying other property. If anything, it'll be stuff we're going to
Yeah,
put
but
in there is going to be an easement.
at the
If
very
we need it.
minimum, an easement.
Was
So,
that, Dave?
At the very minimum, we're gonna get an easement.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay,
so, yep. And just so you know, like for instance, and for those who are joining this are taking part in watching this meeting, you know, we are affecting neighboring properties with this project. If you will, there's a storm drain that comes off, an MDOT storm drain on the abutting property, which happens to be Doug, that we have to relocate because we need to get the grades right for drainage so that this new parking area is not going to flood that building. And so we're doing some work there because we're going to be using that drain. And so, yes, we are going to do work on the abutting property there to facilitate the grade, correcting the grade and moving that storm drain to where it needs to go. And then
Yeah.
on the above property, Mr. Gogan up there, we've affected his property, which is that northern driveway. He's got a driveway on both sides of that, north and south of that building. And we're going to be repairing his driveway, basically as compensation for letting us do this work that kind of damaged his property. So once we do the retainer wall, there's going to be some slope work and we're going to repave that driveway. And that's all part of the agreement to
okay,
tie that all in and make it right.
yeah, that sounds
Alright.
fair.
Okay. All right, Dave, you in favor?
I'm in favor.
Doug, are you in favor?
Yes, I am.
Lori?
Yes.
I am as well. So the motion has carried. The other pocket park, the one between Dale Furniture and Plorton Mono. Can someone lead us into discussion on that particular one?
Okay, so
Now, if you remember, we did ask, there was a plea made for any ideas, comments in regards to that particular one. And I believe we have in our packets some of those comments that were made. And they basically were designed to create a mini putt area there. Most of those comments. Having said that, we need to, are we going to consider putting a mini putt there? Because we did have comments. So what do we want to talk about in regards to that? Are we going to put a mini putt there or not? And are we going to keep what we had previously originally been voted on and a contract signed in regards to the original, or are we going to modify that particular area, which would include more discussion? We're going to need more discussion. So first of all, do we want to put a mini putt? I guess is my first comment or
Well,
question.
who wants to go first?
Well, let's try Doug first, or Lori, doesn't matter.
Okay,
Well, so, I mean, if somebody stepped forward, and wanted to start a business there and do something with that lot, I would certainly consider that. But I don't believe that the town should be looking at opening a business there. I don't, then all of a sudden we're tying up employees and we're in business, we're actually looking to at least make some kind of profit there, which I don't think the town should be in the position of doing. Having said that, I don't know of any other suggestions that have come across. I've looked at what came in my packet here, and I don't see much of anything else other than just putting a sitting area that we already have in town, and I think it really doesn't serve this town all that well, because you get a few people there that'll sit there in the smoke cigarettes and their butts are all over all over the ground. But I mean, if it's a place to sit somewhere, there's already one created, so I don't see that we would go in that route either. Having said that, I'm not in favor of just increasing the parking. To have more parking, I've been really against that pretty much all along, and I don't see that it would work here. So with that in mind, I don't have any objections to following through with the plans that are in front of us. I mean, I think there's some people there that are really putting some thought to how they're going to use that little amphitheater. They're forward thinkers, and I think we can do something if they're going to act on it, which I'm believing that they will. I mean, the chamber's involved today, the community development's involved, the rec's involved, and we're trying to bring people downtown, and so that really is my thoughts, I guess, for that amphitheater.
Okay, well, at that point, let's ask our community development director, Keith, maybe to emphasize some of his thoughts on that particular one. And Gary, you and Keith can discuss your original plan and why you want to keep that original plan.
Gary, you want to lead off, buddy?
Oh, you go ahead, take a swing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think in terms of downtown revitalization, which is what this entails, this is about downtown revitalization. I think keeping it as currently planned and working with local organizations and groups, working with our rec department, working with, we've developed a great relationship with Sharon at the chamber. I think we can program that area and have that be an area where the community come together and we can bring focus to our main street. And I don't really have much else to add than that, other than, we're going to, once we get approval, go ahead.
Can I just ask, are you going to take the lead on this?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Between myself, I'll definitely take the lead on it. I'm going to work hand in hand with Sharon, and I've had a bunch of conversations with Sam at the rec as well. I'm going to be the person to jumpstart getting these people together to brainstorm and to really start thinking about programming this as soon as it's built and ready to go.
Do you see extended seasons at all here that you're going to be able to utilize this? I mean, can we envision anything through the winter months that we could see that this might be utilized?
Yeah, no, I certainly do. I think it can be, in the dead of winter. Does it make sense when we're getting snowstorm after snowstorm? Probably not. But I mean, depending on the sort of winter we get, I think we can certainly utilize it up until snowfall for sure. And even early on in the winter and very early spring. I think once the sun starts to warm up a bit, and times like now, we could certainly again, putting a bunch of heads together, we can certainly think of programming activities. I feel confident in that.
Maybe an ice sculpture.
Yeah, exactly. The sky's the limit.
Gary?
I'll add in to back up what Keith was saying. I think with our strategic plan, one of the things that we wanted to try to, let me back up. The strategic plan that was adopted by the board, that the town hired a consulting firm to do for us, that basically interviewed 400 people throughout the community and surrounding communities. It was clearly identified that having a vibrant, aesthetically pleasing and vibrant, busy downtown was important. And that's something that we should strive towards. And so, for us, we looked at, what can we do in some of these areas where we had these dilapidated buildings that needed to come down, and what could we do with that? And programming was something that we felt, programming areas were something that we felt would help us be able to achieve that goal that's outlined for us. And so one of the things that we all know that retail is tough. Retail is gone through a big downturn with people purchasing online. It's going to get even worse with what people are figuring out, that they can get everything at home right now with this lockdown that we're in. And so retail is going to take another hit. But retail that's surviving today in their downtowns are the experiential type retails where people can come in and buy a product or service, but then get an experience with it. And so I think what we're striving to do, what we want to try to do to help our businesses in our downtown is be able to provide areas where we as a municipality, with the resources that we have, be it with Keith's office and his resources, and the rec department with manpower and ideas, and the Chamber of Commerce, and quite frankly, a lot of different organizations in town, is figure out what can we do for programming activities. And it's not necessarily that we need to spend money hiring our artists to come in here and perform. There's a lot of things that we can do ourselves that would bring the community, get people out of their homes into the downtown, and to get people from outside of town to come into town. And I think if we work with the chamber on innovative marketing techniques and strategies, using these spaces smart, coming out with programs and ways to just get people into town, I think is going to benefit the businesses that are there, that are close by, that people could, during an activity or a program or an event that's going on there, people could easily peel off and go to the bakery and get a coffee, right? They're not far away. So that's part really what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, it's not, we've looked at this downtown revitalization project, not just to make the town prettier, but to make it more vibrant and economically successful. And so what we're trying to do is spend our monies to accomplish more than one thing. And so I think the opportunities, what are those opportunities? What are we going to do there? The possibilities are endless if we put our minds to it. We just have to want to do it, I guess. And do we want to? I think I can speak for myself. I can speak for Keith. We're ready to go. We're ready to do this, and we want to do this for the town, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves. The board, you guys are going to be checking our progress, making sure we're reaching our benchmarks for things that are supposed to happen there. And I think that Madawaska can be a place where people can come here and do something right in the downtown. I really feel that there's not a lot of opportunities, communities better suited to do that, okay? Because we have a nice little downtown, and we just need to do something to it to make it better and more inviting and exciting. Who gets a chance at doing something like this, right? And there's a lot of nice cities and towns that are trying innovative things. If you go online and you look at urban parks and pocket parks and programming activities, there's a ton of stuff that can be done with very little expense that draws people into the downtown. And that's really what we're thinking about doing, is trying to make a lot of things better, not just aesthetically. It's the economy as well.
Do I get a chance to speak here?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. I can understand that you want to make it more appealing. I can understand that you want to draw people to the downtown. I get all of that. It's not something that's lost when you tell that to me. On the other side of the coin, I'm just wondering if it's going to be utilized all that much. But leaving that aside, the location to make such a venue, to me, is found wanting, because, again, if you're going to get people interested in going there, they're going to need places to put their vehicles and park. And you're at a disadvantage because there won't be that much parking unless they park all the way to Bridge Street on Main Street and occupy all the parking. I would rather see something built in the Bicentennial Park that would accommodate things that would be done in this park. I would like to see us improve our Bicentennial Park and make that the center of our performing arts, if you want to call it that, than to do it at this location. I don't know if it's possible to divert money to the bicentennial park. I think if we asked nicely, I think it would be. And then I think the public really doesn't realize that we're talking here somewhere around $250,000 to put in an amphitheater that to me will not be used enough for the amount of money that we're going to spend there. And coming to the all the comments that were made, I understand there was some people that wanted a mini putt. Well, there might be use for a small mini putt in town, but that again would not be a good location for it. Would certainly not be a good location at all. Sometimes the best use for a piece of land is the natural use that's already happening now. It's being used right now to park. It could be used to do something along the sidewalk to make it look nice. I'm disappointed that a lot of people that had really good ideas about murals and about heritage and about certain things that could have been put along the sidewalk were never brought to paper and were never brought to the town. I'm really disappointed. I think there's some people out there that have some really good ideas that were expressed to me. And I'm very disappointed they never made it to the town manager's desk in that 1 week of public comments that we had. And so this is basically where I'm coming from. Again, I have to reiterate that 30 years ago, our parking downtown was eliminated, basically. And now we have a chance to restore some of that parking and to do something on Main Street that would look good, and to also have an access for snowmobiles and four-wheelers to access a gas station slash maybe a sports equipment store, and then also to have maybe the opportunity to put a stairwell so that people can walk up the stairwell from the parking down below. This is what I see for that area, and I would hope that in the future we could do something in the Bicentennial Park to accommodate more venues, if you want to call it that.
Thank you, Dave. Lori?
So, okay, I considered, the mini putt idea as well. And just to say, I wasn't thinking of it really in, as a business thing, but to try and do that there, I think, just asking questions to people who seem to understand this type of thing, it would probably cost just as much. And we'd have to man that. So we'd have to have someone from the rec there all of the time. I just don't see that it makes sense right now. As far as the parking goes, I can't get my head around this one way. And, my question to you, Dave, was this driveway or road wide enough for two cars to meet? And you said, well, it's okay because when we meet, someone just backs out. And I can't really understand how that could work. I have to say, in the beginning of all of this, I wanted to take a look at it, understand, what the people prior to us had intended. I thought, let's just leave it. Now looking, we've already bought a lot of the stuff. We've paid for the engineering. We've accrued the cost to it. I really hate that we're bonded out for this far with this type of payment. But the fact is that no matter what we do, this money is sitting there. We can't spend it on other things outside of this project or like the downtown. revitalization. We cannot give it back. We cannot pay it ahead. We cannot sell this land. We could not even run a business on it, as far as I know, or let somebody run a business on it. I guess I'm stuck. I'm stuck because I've had a lot of conversations between the last meeting and this one, on Facebook and just phone calls. And there's a very upset, loud group of people that are saying, you know, what are these crazy people doing? And then there's a very quiet, it feels like to me, almost majority that are saying, why are you guys stopping this project? This is what we wanted. This is what we talked about 2 years ago. This is the direction we were going in. You know, I guess in my head, all I can say is I'm thinking now is let's just move forward. Let's move forward wisely, and I'm not of the mind to stop this project at this point, but let's do things a heck of a lot differently for the next one. The rest of this money that's sitting here that we need to spend, you know, I want commitments that we're gonna go out to the public. We're going to scream it from the rooftops. We're going to make sure we have huge public meetings. We're going to hash out every detail before we go to engineers and before we get into this situation again. I guess, I mean, as a board member, I hesitate to undo everything prior boards and committees have done at this point, because other than the money, I don't feel like I have a good reason to do that. And the money's there. There's nothing else we can do with it. To Dave's point, I would like to see something done in Bicentennial Park too. Is there something, you know, like, after this, can we talk about that and you know, get the gazebos dangerous there? And
It's in our scope of work area, yes.
okay, I mean,
Say that again.
Was that Don?
What did you say?
I said the Bicentennial Park is in the scope of work area for
And we
downtown.
understand there's some modifications and some repairs that have to go into the Bicentennial Park. So that's will be a discussion that we need to have, as Lori suggested, up and down from the rooftop, looking at it from the top, looking at it from the bottom, from both sides, and make the wise choices, what we want to do in the Bicentennial Park above and beyond what we're doing now. I think to Lori's point, you know, I've talked to a whole bunch of people. How come you're not moving forward? Well, you know, with this park, it was presented that way. But the common thing that most of them have is, though, if you build it, you need to utilize it. It can't be just a showpiece. It has to be used. And if you know, through community development, through the Chamber of Commerce, through the organizations, rec department activities, if we're going to say and we can hold you guys accountable, you know, community development, town manager, town office, whoever's responsible for all of this, you know, we need to use it. We need to use it in meaningful activities. And I think that's what people are asking. Let's do it, but let's make sure we utilize it to the point that we get our money's worth. That's my comment.
If I may, to Dave and Lori's point about the Bicentennial Park. So when we started the whole concept work with Lark and Woodard and Curran, we looked at all of the areas in our scope of work area, and that included Four Corners Park. It also included the Bicentennial Park as well. But we knew that we had to take off. This downtown revitalization project was going to be in phases. We couldn't do it all at once because we didn't know what the costs were going to be, and so we knew that this was going to be a multi-phase project. They did put together some concepts for Bicentennial Park and Four Corners Park. In the Bicentennial Park, and those are concepts that are not bid out or cost estimated at all. It's just some renderings that were given to us by Lark. And I think Bicentennial Park had a couple of renderings. One was more of some minor changes there, and then there was this other one, this all-in, you know, massive overhaul of Bicentennial Park, which were pretty neat. So we have been thinking about Bicentennial Park as part of this downtown revitalization project. It's just not a phase that we've moved into yet, if you will, because we needed to address Main Street first. Or that's the direction we had gotten. It was to
Yeah.
address.
Again, I just want to echo, if we build it, we need to use it.
You know, I was involved heavily with Four Seasons when that started to come around, and what happened, just to make this story a little bit short, is that we got the foundation up and we got the floor up, and then we got a few walls up, and then there was a ton of work that needed to be done there. I mean, how to finish it, how to put some decent doors up, how it was going to be utilized, where the lockers were going to go, and it got to a standstill. It was like, holy Christ, we've got this big, beautiful building here, and now we have no direction. And lo and behold, somebody stepped up and said, I'll be there every day so that when the volunteers come, I'll be able to point them in the right direction and what needs to be done. Because you know as well as I do, if I show up down there to volunteer and nobody's there to give me some direction of what needs to be done, I'm just going to walk away. And that's why I'm putting a lot of weight right now on Keith and Gary, that there is direction. Because if there is no direction, it will sit idle. It needs that direction. Like we had at Four Seasons, we had somebody that stepped up, and then the volunteers, every time they came around, they were pointed to what they needed to do or what we needed help with. And within a matter of a couple of years, that place got built, and it's a gorgeous place today, but it needs that direction. And so I'm looking at the two of you here, Gary and Keith, and putting a lot of weight in my decision in moving forward with this.
Challenge accepted.
And I,
Go ahead, Lori.
well, to Doug's point, I can say that my hope, I'm putting the challenge out to the community members that spoke to me and said, what are you doing? Why are you stopping this? We can see this happen there. We can see that happen there. This is something that I, envision could work. It's very easy to say that you want this to happen and to ask, that we don't stop this project. But I'm hopeful that the community members watching at this point that have really kind of pushed me along on this a little bit, that they step up too, and that they're there, and that they show up and they decide to help. I'm certainly willing.
I think we all are. You're right. The same thing with my conversations with a bunch of other people. They want to see it built and stuff, and they want to utilize it, but they need to come and be supportive of this after the fact, or as we're putting it together, so they can see in their heads what this is going to look like. But we need to get the organizations, the community, everyone involved in this process. Maybe something like once we start building it and we're almost in completion, then maybe we need to have these public meetings with our citizens and say, we'd like to, you have any ideas of what you'd like to do, what you'd like to see. These are all good things that, people sometimes, if they're challenged, will step to the plate, but sometimes they need a little bit of prodding. They need to see that their neighbor wants this idea, and they're going to jump on that bandwagon. Someone else is going to jump on another bandwagon. And next thing you know, you've got a lot of activities going on there. And that would be the ultimate if we could see that happen. So I think that's going to be up to us, and with the community development, the chamber, everyone involved to plan out these activities and get our residents, our community involved in those decisions. Is there any more discussion on the park?
I did go have a conversation with Gary and Keith to try to divert the money elsewhere, by the way. I did. And I know there's people out there that have gotten copies of all of this to try to say, okay, let's buy a fire truck. But,
yeah,
I get it.
I mean, for that simple, that might be an easier decision if we could take some of that money and generate it towards a fire truck.
Yeah, I mean,
That life's a little bit different, but we can't.
and I'm not faulting the people who put all of this into motion, because this was, before, and you can't, as someone said to me today, you don't have a crystal ball to see what's going to happen and what things are going to look like. So at this point, really, we just probably need to move forward and just be a little bit more mindful of how we present these things.
So to ask for a motion at this point and to try to get a second with more discussion, I think the motion should be just reaffirm the prior board's decision with this particular project. Does that make sense to you guys, that that's the way the motion and the second should go? We've already got a project that's been bid out, materials bought, contractor selected. I'm just thinking that we just reaffirm that decision. What do you think?
Before you go with a motion, I'd like to say that from my discussions with the people I rub shoulders with, I don't know if someone was afraid to speak up. I hope not, but I have not heard anything positive about an amphitheater in that area. So I just want you to understand that. And I'm sure there's a small amount of people in Madawaska that would love to have a performing arts place there. I'm not so sure that the majority of people, I'm not so sure that the majority of people in Madawaska want performing parks over there, but that's all I have to say at this time.
Okay, that's fair. All right, is there a motion to affirm the decision of a prior board and continue with the project as originally voted on and move it forward?
Do you actually need a motion for that?
Probably not either, unless the
If
board.
we're just
by consent.
agreeing, if we're just saying that we're okay with the plans as they were, I don't think you even need a motion at this point.
I think you're right, maybe you're right, yeah. Gary, what would you want? What do you want from this board?
I mean, at this point, we're at a point in this process that the contractors are now starting to mobilize their equipment, and we can't hold them up anymore. We have a prior board decision that's kind of holding right now. If the board were to come out of today with this meeting with a majority decision for something else, then that would cause us to do some change orders to that area. So
Okay.
I think that while we may not necessarily need a motion to reaffirm the prior board's decision for that, to award that, to go ahead with that concept and award that, I do think it would probably be helpful if you guys would do so.
It would be what?
There was a decision made to put a hold on the project. I think there needs to be a decision to remove the hold on the project. So there has to be some kind of a vote in that.
That's a good point, Dave. It's a good point. So let's make a motion. Is there a motion by anyone to take the hold off the project and continue as previously approved?
So moved.
Moved by Doug. Is there a second?
Second.
Lori. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Doug?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Dave?
No,
Dawn? Yes. So I guess, Gary, you'll need to contact the contractor and tell him the project moves forward as designed.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, folks. Article 3. To consider a town of Madawaska UDAG program / St. John Valley Chamber of Commerce community COVID-19 affected business economic stimulus concept. Try to say that fast in your sleep all at once. Can we have information on that? It's 3 or 4 pages, I believe.
So,
Yeah, 4
Keith,
pages of information.
Keith, do you have all the packet?
Yeah,
Do you have it, Keith, or you don't?
Yeah, I have it.
You do? So, it's in your wheelhouse, Keith. I mean, you can do the, just go
Oh,
through it. I think it'd be good to read it personally, so people can hear what the concept is. If they haven't seen, I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen, they've just heard some bits and pieces of it, what we're thinking about doing here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, do you want me to just read the summary?
I would. Matt, you want to drink?
I've read it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all have it in front of you.
I guess
mean-
for the public, Keith, it would be.
Oh,
bad
that's a
idea.
good point. Good point, Doug. Good point.
Yeah, sure. I know how to read. So this concept would create an economic stimulus program for COVID-19 affected non-essential businesses as defined by Governor Mills' executive order. The St. John Valley Chamber of Commerce would serve as an administrator of the program, with the town of Madawaska UDAG one-time appropriated seed monies provided to the chamber for disbursement and program administration. The concept is for the chamber to sell 50/50 gift certificates redeemable to COVID-19 affected qualifying businesses located in Madawaska. The gift certificates have a value of $50, would be sold for $25, with the other $25 of the value paid for by the chamber through the town of Madawaska UDAG seed money. Qualifying businesses for which gift certificates were purchased would receive a front-end payment check for the aggregate full value of the gift certificate at weekly intervals. The idea is to put immediate money into the hands of businesses on a weekly basis to assist them through the economic hardship. So,
Thank you.
yeah, just to summarize that more. So basically, the chamber would be selling $50 gift certificates for $25 to any business that wants to sign up to be part of this program. And every week, however much money worth of gift certificates were sold to a certain business, the chamber will cut a check for that amount to the business owner.
Any questions on this, folks, as far as the purpose, where the money's coming from? How much money are we talking about? We're looking at what, putting in roughly $10,000 of UDAG monies towards this?
Yeah,
Maybe a
so
little more?
I'll delve into the details a little bit. And we put together as a concept, and this, what you have in front of you is a place mark for discussion, and you guys can tweak this as you wish. We were proposing, first of all, is what would probably be about $10,000 for our 50% share of what would be about 400 gift certificates worth $20,000, right? So what the town is doing is they're taking their UDAG money and leveraging other monies from the people maybe within the town or outside of town. So we've doubled the amount of stimulus money going to the businesses. We would provide $1,000 to the chamber to cover for their administration costs, and another $500 to cover credit card machine fees, postage, and the cost of the gift certificates. The chamber would work to design the style of the gift certificate. They would fill out to who it goes to. So it'd be like a blank, generic gift certificate with logos or whatever, the chamber in the town or whatnot. And we would use our town seal to validate it so that it wouldn't be no fraud. The gift certificates could be purchased because we're on lockdown. There's no face-to-face contact. That would be considered a front-end facing business. So we can't have the chamber can't have that inter-facing transaction. So it would be done either via credit card by contacting the chamber. We could also do a Dropbox. You could put a check in the mail or the Dropbox at the chamber. The envelope should contain a check for $25 and outline the name of the person or the business who is purchasing the certificate and which business they would like the certificate for. Like he said, the chamber would cut disbursement checks on a weekly basis to help them out, put some money in their fund to operate, keep things going. Keith has worked very well with Sharon, with what our database had for business listings in theirs to come up with a qualifying list of businesses. We have that list. It's part of your agenda packet. The program would be promoted through Keith's economic and community development budget. we would use different venues of advertising, such as Fiddle and Focus, website, the chamber page, and also potentially doing something with WAGM to sell the project and what we're trying to do for our businesses and our citizens. I think it benefits citizens as well too. If citizens in town want to take advantage and multiply their money to help a local business, that's going to help them. It's going to help the chamber get some not foot traffic through the door, but get some business through the door at the chamber and give them some good exposure, I think. Keith, you want to take from there, from the next bullet?
Um,
And give you a second to get caught up.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what we want to do is have sort of an opt-in period, and granted you guys approve this and we move forward with it. Starting tomorrow, we're going to reach out to as many businesses as humanly possible in Madawaska and make sure they're aware of it, and then they can opt into this if they feel that their business has been affected directly by the current pandemic that we're going through. They could contact myself or Sharon at the chamber. We can add them to the list of businesses that want to be included. And you know, our plan would be to give sort of maybe a 10-day opt-in period, and that would put the estimated start date of the program to be around April 20th, where we could actually start selling the gift certificates. I have a gift certificate made already. It's ready to order. I'm just waiting for this approval. You know, again, businesses have to be directly affected by COVID-19. It must be located in Madawaska. And the business must be okay with having our generic gift certificate get used in their establishment. We're going to set a limit of 4 gift certificates per household, just so that we can stop anyone from stockpiling 100 gift certificates. We want to try to help as many businesses as possible, and try to help as many families and people as possible. Gary, you want to touch a little bit on the underwriting portion of it?
So we started looking at this concept and thought, you know, simple and straightforward. And then you start thinking about, well, what happens if a business goes out of business and somebody purchased a gift certificate for $25? Okay, $50 gift certificate, and the business was no longer there. That business may be closed for a month or two because they're front facing and they cannot be open. And if somebody were to make that investment and purchase, you know, a dollar amount of gift certificates to a business that would no longer be there. So what we're proposing is that the town, through the UDAG program, would underwrite any losses. Meaning, for instance, if Lori or, you know, Lori's mom bought 2 gift certificates for, she paid $50 and she got $100 worth, we'd be willing to underwrite the cost of the gift certificates, not the value of them. So that person won't lose money. And so we don't think we're going to see a lot of that. We could see a little bit, but I think, you know, even if we did incur a few losses, I think the benefit as a whole to the community, what we're trying to do far outweighs us maybe losing a few bucks on a handful of gift certificates for a business that might not be open in a few months from now. God forbid that it would happen.
Can I just question the process? You know, if I'm a citizen and I want to buy a certificate, I would call the chamber and buy a certificate for $25. In turn, they would write a gift certificate in the amount of $50. Now, if I want to use this at Jeff's, would I identify that with the chamber that I want this gift certificate to be labeled for Jeff's? Or is it, okay, so I would have to identify with the chamber, this gift certificate I'm looking for would be to use at Jeff's Pizza.
Yep. But we, again, based on that, we want to have, like Gary mentioned, myself and Sharon, I had Lori help, but Lori was helping out tremendously as well, just trying to put together the list of businesses. In fear of missing anybody, because I think we got a good hold on most of them, but in fear of missing anybody, we want to advertise and have a 10-day period for the businesses to contact us to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. Once we have that, we'll be able to generate the list of businesses that have qualified that want to be a part of this, and we're going to post that on our website, the chamber's website, Facebook, any means possible, so that our citizens, Madawaska and the whatever surrounding communities can take a look and say, okay, well, I frequent this place, so I'm gonna call up and get a gift certificate for this specific place for $50.
So the chamber, represents a broader area than just the town of Madawaska.
Right.
So-
Gary,
so
did you
what-
want to touch on that? Because I mean, the UDAG money that we'd be taking from, I believe, is town of Madawaska UDAG money, correct, Gary?
Correct. And then this is for, we understand that the chamber represents other municipalities as well. They have our other businesses and other municipalities. This would be a Madawaska program. We cannot expend our dollars outside of our municipal boundaries, so this would be limited to the businesses here in town. Other people from outside of town could purchase gift certificates, but it would have to be businesses in our municipality.
Yeah, can I say something?
Sure.
Just to your point, Doug, we're not asking the chamber to use chamber membership money or any of that to pay her time to sell these. The town's actually going to pay their time to do this for the Madawaska businesses. So, I guess I think that could work.
Yeah, that's where that 1,000 to the chamber for the program administration would go into.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I like the idea. Great idea.
Continuing on, Keith, can you talk about, we've put a lot of, and Lori was a great help with Keith and I and Sharon, really trying to cover all the areas, not worried that we're leaving, somebody's going to be left out, that someone's going to be at a disadvantage. And so, we soon realized that we knew that some businesses were going to be able to capitalize on this more than others. And, we talked about limits. Should we limit how many gift certificates per business? And we covered a lot of bases into how we thought would be the best way to put some guidelines in there to try to get the money as evenly dispersed as possible. And that was hard to do. And so I think what we're suggesting that we're doing through the opt-in process, and we're going to disclose this at the front end, at the outset, when the businesses come in and they say, I want to be part of this, I'm all in. The businesses have to know that it's going to be on them to get the word out. Okay, so they have their clientele. They got Facebook. They can advertise this themselves. They can go out on the paper. Keith had an idea about businesses maybe making their own little sale, incentivizing this even further. So we're going to be putting we're going to provide the seed money. We're just not going to cut checks to everybody evenly. We want the businesses to take advantage of this, use this as a way to market their business as well. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting marketing exercise for our for the businesses in this town. But from the outset, the businesses that are going to sign up are going to understand that how much you get out of this is going to depend how hard you push it yourself through your own advertising means, be it Facebook or just private messaging your clientele or putting it out in the paper or whatever it is that they want to do. So it is conceivable that some businesses are going to get more than others, but we got to put a little bit of responsibility on the businesses to go after this too. It's almost like a competition, if you will, more and to get more. And so I think that takes some of the pressure off of the chamber and the town for a business that might come in back is to say, well, I really didn't get much out of this, and the other business got a whole bunch. That's not fair. Well, there's no fair way to do it other than I think what we're proposing is to let the businesses go after it. You go get it, and it's there. You just need to roll up your sleeves and do some marketing.
How are you going to end this program?
How are we going to end it?
Right.
We run out of money.
Out?
So you have to identify that, you know, when the funds are gone, you're all done. So I guess really that's my question. How do you end it?
Yeah, I mean, we're only going to supply enough gift certificates to the chamber for money that we have. So it's going to be first come, first serve. And once we've hit our threshold where the money that we've appropriated is gone, then you know, we're going to have to stop at that point and decide whether it's something we want to go get a little bit more funds to help out, or do we, you know, or is that it?
How about, I'm sure you thought about this, but how about you have for example, business A that decides that they want to jump on this right away. And they've got a great Facebook set up in place. They have this and that. And they go out to 400 of their customers. And for that particular business, 200 people or customers show up to get certificates. That only leaves a couple hundred left for the other businesses. Have you thought about that? Or how's that going to work?
I mean, we've thought about it. Again, like Gary touched on, there's no way to make this perfect and entirely fair for everybody involved. We're going to give every business in town the same amount of time to prepare for this rollout. We're going to give ample time for any small business to contact us to opt into this program. You know, and from there, we have, like Gary said, we have to put the onus a little bit on the business owners to market it and reach their market to make them. I mean, we're going to make as many people aware as possible this is happening. We're not going to hide it, but it's going to be on the individual businesses as well to say, hey, this is coming on, you know, keep me in mind.
I want to say too, and I almost forgot a point that I wanted to add is that we've already had some businesses interested in sponsoring this as well. So we're already starting to see part of our marketing of this program is going to be that we encourage people or businesses that are interested in paying it forward, sponsoring this program. They can do that. We already have had a couple of businesses pledge. Total up to right now is we have $600 in pledges to help support what we're trying to do, and so that's $1,200 more. So already, if we move forward with this, we have more than 400 transactions here for businesses. We have another, whatever, we do the math, and I think we're going to grow that sponsorship base pretty quickly once the word gets out of people that are interested in helping others and helping other businesses. Not necessarily by buying the gift certificate, but knowing that if they, you know, pledge a certain amount of money, that's going to double. That money is going to double in economic impact by leveraging other money.
I think that's a good point, that, you know, we can challenge the businesses that are doing well. Like, we know this really hit a certain segment really hard, but there are some businesses in the community that are still doing really well. There are some, you know, that aren't so much affected by this. So that'd be, you know, a great challenge to them to say, you know, if we want to keep our businesses in town, we want to keep our neighbors going, and we want this community to thrive, that the businesses that are doing well certainly could sponsor some of this too, and, you know, show some solidarity.
All right. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve $11,500 to distribute to the Chamber of Commerce.
Can I, before the motion is made, I just want to make a point that we were proposing that it would be $10,000, and you guys can decide. You guys can decide if you want it to be 10. You guys can decide if you want it to be 7,500. You can decide if you want it to be 1,500. There was also discussion, you know, that depending on how this goes, we could potentially might want to renew this. You know, who knows? If it goes really well and we get a lot of sponsorship, It might be something that we would consider renewing, but I just wanted to make it a point to you that before you make your motion, know that, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be $10,000. It could be more or less. Or
Okay.
just
And can I chip in on, can I just throw one more thing in, Don, before you you
Go
go
ahead.
further? Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. I just want to clarify the 11,500 that you brought up. I just, for those who don't have that right in front of them, so $10,000 goes for our 50% share, and $1,000 goes for the chamber for the administration of that program, and then that $500 that's put in there. I just want to make sure that it's known. For anybody, because we can't have much face-to-face contact, anybody can purchase these over the phone using a credit card. The chamber does have a credit card machine. There's a 3.5% charge on that. And then also for those that we're going to send out the gift certificates, we took into consideration the postage to send them all out. So I just wanted to make that clear as to why it's 11,500 and not just 11,000.
Thank you.
Okay, Bob.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go through with the program as presented.
With 11,500, Lori?
Right. I mean, I'd like to see it be 25. The goal is to put money into the business's hands as quickly as possible, so she'll cut immediate checks, and to help the taxpayers that, you know, they can get a great deal and save a lot of money. So, I mean, if someone wants to offer to put in more, I'm certainly for that, but I'm happy with it the way it is as well.
Okay,
Well,
we have a
Gary, I
motion.
mean, we can revisit that, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing to consider here is that, you know, we're going to be basically covering the administrative costs for the chamber. So every time that we roll, if let's say we come back and we say, hey, this was a super success, we want to just do this one more time, you know, that we would probably be looking at the same amount of administrative costs to do it over again. So, you know, if you're thinking that there could be a renewal to this, we could probably say, well, let's just do it for 15 for the same amount of administration. It's not going to be much more time involved with the sales of an additional $5,000 worth of certificates. But, you know, if we're going back, you know, again for another round of 10,000 or 11,500, would all be, you know, just something to think about as part of your motion.
Dave, you usually have some very good points and some things that make me think. You have nothing to say?
I have nothing to say. No, I think it's not a bad place to spend some of that UDAG money, and I think hopefully we're not going to be selling these tickets all to one business. I don't know if you should put a limit of 50 tickets to one business or do something along those lines. But yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Do you want to second that motion, Dave?
No, I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? So is the motion 11,500 out of UDAG funds to get this program going, as specified in the details? Hearing none, all in favor? Dave is in favor?
Yeah.
Doug?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Myself also. Motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you.
Article 4. To consider a town meeting UDAG, to consider a town of Madawaska UDAG microloan program for COVID-19 affected businesses.
Next.
Was that?
A microloan. Oh, you're talking about a microloan now?
Yeah.
4.
No.
Article 4.
Okay, I see.
So Keith, you want to go ahead and read out the summary on that?
I don't have that one, bud.
Okay. Sorry, Keith. So currently our UDAG program has served businesses in the municipality for few generations now, and it's served to mostly be as a means of gap financing for businesses who might have a hard time getting traditional lending, or there's sort of a gap in the amount of money that they would need. The bank can only lend a certain amount of money because of collateral issues. It's also been used to facilitate businesses who are applying for grants. They leverage some grant money and they need to borrow some money for their match and things like that. So the Madawaska's UDAG program has served a lot of businesses over the years. Some are still with us today, and some have not succeeded. And so the UDAG program, I guess it's a good point right now to maybe talk about that a little bit. The Madawaska UDAG program is an old revolving loan fund. It's not taxpayer dollars, okay? It is property of the town of Madawaska, but it's not monies that were ever generated through collecting taxes, okay? And it stemmed from an old revolving loan fund that was created years ago, I believe, probably for Twin Rivers paper or Fraser paper back in the day. With a federal program and a loan that was paid back to the town, and the town kept those monies to provide future lending. That's what they call the revolving loan fund. And so over the years, Madawaska has issued all kinds of loans out, and they've also had marketing grants, if you will, different programs that have been made available throughout the years. And so right now, Don had talked about, when we talked about the gift certificate program with the chamber, Don had a great idea about what can we do to offer, like to put money into the hands of businesses right away. And one of the thoughts was microloans. And so the concept right now, and I'm just going to go ahead and read from it, that was put out there. It's the USDA microloan program concept for COVID-19 affected businesses. This concept for this microloan would be to provide financial assistance to Madawaska businesses that had been adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The UDAG program could provide a $1,000 1-year zero interest microloan to qualifying businesses with a 6-month moratorium on payments, meaning the first 6 months there are no payments, meaning that the payments by the borrower would commence 6 months after the execution of loan documents. Eligibility definitions would be based on the March 24, 2020 Maine Governor's executive order regarding essential businesses and operations. And so I had some comments that I asked Northern Maine Development Commission, who administers our UDAG program, to give us some comments and concerns on paper so that you guys could review those and have that help you and inform you in your decision making. And essentially, it's pretty straightforward. I think in a typical UDAG loan, the town would ask for collateral. The business might buy business equipment, or they might make some improvements to their building. If the town, in a traditional UDAG loan, the town, if we financed some improvements to a building, but there was a mortgage with the bank or a credit union, the town would have the lesser position. We would have the second mortgage on that. In the case of business equipment, most of the time, if we provide lending to provide equipment, we have security interest on the collateral or the equipment. Here with this program, I think it's a $1,000 microloan, and for us to collateralize that amount of money would take a lot of time. It would add a lot of time to the timeline where the businesses would get the money in their hands, and it's really not. It's a de minimis amount of money to collateralize, I feel, when we're trying to get money into the hands of the businesses that desperately need it right now. And so, conversations that I had with Northern Maine Development today, Lori had some good questions. She thought that would be helpful to have some answers to before this meeting. And I'll give you an example. When I talked to Northern Maine Development, was what's the turnaround time? How quick can we make this? And their answer was, well, how complicated do you want to make the loan application? If you want to look for collateral and all those things, then it's going to take some time. we're not interested in that. How do we know? Another question, scenario that was thrown at me is, how do we know that business was in business? If they come in here, if we don't have any guidelines at all, what gives us the grounds to deny somebody a loan, a microloan, if we don't have some guidelines, if you will? And that could be discriminatory. So I think what we sort of came to, what I'm going to propose is that if we do move forward with the microloan, that we would ask for the business, whoever's applying, to share with us their last income tax return that shows that they were doing business as, or maybe they're incorporated, or if they don't have that available, maybe just a printout of their QuickBooks, their financials, some invoices that show us that they're buying products to sell, vendors, stuff like that. So there are things that we can ask for to verify that the applicant who is interested in borrowing this money was actually in business on March 24, 2020. And so that would be the validation, and the qualification, of course, would be non-essential businesses affected by COVID-19 as per Governor Mills' March 24 executive order. So pretty straightforward. We could conceivably, if the board would approve this tonight, all we would have to do is put together a microloan application. We would post it on our website. We would make it available by email. Somebody could email us. We could email them the application. They could in turn scan it and send it back to us. They could drop it in our Dropbox at the front of the town office. They could drop it in the mail. We could approve those right here. And the setup of the loan would happen after the fact, because we're not going to start collecting payments for 6 months anyway. So the setup of the accounts and the loan portfolios could take place after that. The only thing that would add a little time to the timeline, typically with a UDAG loan program, it's nothing like this, right? Where we're potentially going to receive many applications. We do them on a case-by-case basis, and the board approves them on a case-by-case basis with recommendations that come from the Northern Maine Development Commission, because they're going to basically do the financial analysis of the business applying, the cash flow analysis, and they're going to make a recommendation to you folks as the board as to whether or not this loan is a good loan to recommend, or if it has risk and we probably shouldn't be doing it. So I think if we're interested in putting the money into the hands of the businesses quickly, I think this board could pre-approve these loans with the guidance that the businesses have to qualify first of all, you have to be eligible based on the governor's declaration, emergency declaration of March 24, and you need to provide us their financial information to verify that they were doing business on March 24, 2020. And then if that would be the case, that the board would blanket approve loans, then we could start issuing loans quickly and getting money into the hands of the businesses. If you find that it's being too risky, then I see us having to have many board meetings where we would have to probably go into executive sessions. And that makes it even more complicated, that we're having to do these conferencing meetings, adding quite a bit of time to the timeline for when people can finally get some operating money, if you will. That's the gist of it.
So how many microloans are you able to put out there? Is there a limit on microloans? I mean, there's got to be a limit to this UDAG money, right?
Okay, so Dave, I'm not sure if you're covering up your mic. We didn't really hear your question too well.
Oh.
Is your mic covered up? It sounds muffled.
Well, that changed. How's that? Is that better?
I mean, we can make you out, but it doesn't sound great.
My battery is getting lower all the time here.
And I need-
Listen, let me speak a little bit to that, because I had thrown out an idea of how much money. We've got, I believe I was told, we've got over $90,000 in UDAG right now, cash that we have in UDAG. We've just approved 11,500 of it to be used for the gift certificate. I was thinking in the ballpark of potentially taking $40,000 out of UDAG, which would mean 40 loans that could be done. That was my conversation I had with Gary in regards to that, and I think I kind of mentioned it to Doug too, that particular amount. The gist of the whole thing is that we have the ability to do that. That is unique to us in Madawaska compared to other communities who may not have that same type of money available to do something like that. And I can't think of a better way of trying to help our affected businesses, the non-essentials, quicker than to do it this way. So I'm asking, for consideration on that. Where I have a little bit of a hesitation, though, is that if we're gonna, when our administrators get too much involved in this, they're gonna charge us for this, for their time.
Mhm.
And I don't really want to give them that much money. I want this to go, that money that we have, I want this to go towards our businesses. And I would also suggest that we do a blanket motion that would allow through a process that could be vetted with time through the town manager's office and economic development office, instead of having an approval from the board level on every loan. That if we follow the guidelines that we've set up and we get some of their financials and it makes sense and they meet the criteria of March 24th, that we give the okay to the town manager to sign off on this, and we can get this money to I'm sure, businesses that need that money as quickly as possible. There are people out there who may be out of business all of a sudden because they're non-essential, but they rent their place of business and no money's coming in, even though, this might help with a month or two of rent or whatever, or they want to keep a couple of employees. This would help a little bit. So that's where I was coming from on that. So I guess I'm throwing out the amount that Dave was asking, how much. I'm talking about $40,000.
And how about setting a time limit there? This is not supposed to go on for a year.
No.
Or 6 months, a year. So what if we put a 2-month period of you have 2 months to come in and put an application in, and after 2 months, if there's only $20,000 spent, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, but up to, not to spend necessarily the $40,000 if we don't want, if we don't need to.
Right,
but
right.
A couple of months
40
would be sufficient, especially if we don't have a lot of red tape.
Yeah. And if people are really in need of these microloans, they should come up fairly quickly to apply for these loans. So give them plenty of time, give them a month and a half, 2 months, and then say the program is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would agree to approval right within the town office for that amount of money, but there needs to be some kind of verbiage in the application maybe, or something, because if you're talking that you're going to get an application, you're going to approve it, you're going to cut them a check so they can go pay their rent or their electric bill right away, and then we're going to do the documentation. There's nowhere in there that there's a signature that I can see that says, yes, I'm going to pay this back, or as a personal, guarantee, I'm going to pay this back. So somewhere in that application, it has to say, maybe it has to be more than an application. There has to be something in there to guarantee that this money comes back to the town.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is.
And I'm sorry I didn't explain that.
Part of that.
I'm sorry I didn't explain that clearly to you, but NMDC has got a loan agreement part of this too, that we would have, basically, I think once we get the application, we look at it a day or two, we say, yes, you're approved, here's your loan agreement. And then there you have it. That completes the contract.
So if there's any support out there for this idea, is there any motion to that effect? With a timeline of 2 months, a loan agreement, understanding that we may run into situations where we may have an issue collecting, but with the gist of the idea that we're trying to help our businesses right now.
Yeah. Let's have a motion. Let's vote.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is there a motion? Dave, are you making a motion?
I make a motion that we go ahead and loan up to 40,000 and have a time limit of no more than 2 months to apply for this loan and to adhere to all the stipulations that we've been talking about.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lori. Doug, you want to add any more?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay, are you in favor, Doug?
I am.
Lori?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And myself, unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you, folks. I think that's going to be greatly appreciated by some of those businesses that we have in town right now.
Hey, Don,
Yes, sir.
before we continue on, and you're not going to see it because it looks backwards, but we need to extend the meeting beyond 2 hours before we do.
Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Moved by Doug. Is there a second?
Second.
Lori?
Dave, do you have a power cord somewhere or?
Well, I'm plugged in, but I'm still going down in power, down to 24%. And I'm already plugged in. And
Yeah,
I
I
started
think
at
Dave-
100%.
Dave, I think we can, another 10 minutes, I think we can get this done.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So all in favor of extending 2 hours?
Moved.
Aye. We're all in
Yes.
favor. We're going to extend beyond the 2 hour limit, which is coming up. It's already there. Okay, Article 5, to consider the town of Madawaska 2020 road repair and paving project bid solicitation. Project approved at the June 10, 2019 annual town meeting. I asked Gary to put this in there. My gist of putting that in there for discussion, and Gary and anyone else can chime in on this, is that I'm not sure that under the circumstances, the financial certain situations, that it would be wise for this at this time to go out and borrow money. I think we are going to experience some revenue losses based on people not being able to pay their taxes or their whatever, their car excises. They're not going to buy new cars as much. I think it'd be a good idea if we just put a hold on that. It's already been approved by the town meeting, but I would hold back on making the final decision to actually go out and borrow.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't think it's a good time to borrow money. I believe the time they made the decision, money was flowing in the streets, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
So yes, I would definitely put a hold on it. I would have been agreeable to probably do half the project with a loan that is being termed out at this point. That would probably would have done half of this project, and the other half would have wait another year or two until we can collect more taxes from said taxpayer who's not paying his fair share.
Okay. The gist of this, though, I think, is we just put the whole thing on hold for now, and that's my recommendation. I heard what you just said, but I think let's reconsider this at a later date before we make a final decision on what we want to do, 0, none, or whatever, 50% or whatever it is. That would be my recommendation. I'd love to have input from Doug and Lori.
Well, I don't know. I don't know our rights here when we discuss issues like this that were already voted in. I mean, I realized the implication today, but basically they advised us to go out and make that loan to take care of those roads, and it did get approved. So how do we renege on that? How do we turn that back? Just because I'm a rookie here, I just don't understand how we can actually even do that.
I would think the way I would look at it is that we postpone it. We don't take any action on it for now. And when we have a town meeting, if we want to not do it, then we go back to the town meeting and explain to our people at the town, at town meeting, that the reason we haven't done it is because of this. If they want us to reaffirm it and say to us, move forward with this, then we move forward with it. If not, I think most people will understand under those circumstances.
So what you're telling me is that if the townspeople vote an item in and we decide at a later date not to do it, we could revisit the same issue year after year after year and not get anything done, even though the townspeople are saying that this is the way they want us to go. Is that what you're telling us?
That's not the gist. That's not what I was thinking. However, I see where you're coming from with it.
You have to understand, can I say something?
Yeah.
You have
Go
to
ahead.
understand that when these decisions were made, there was a lot of unforeseen things that were going to happen in town. The people in town didn't know that their mill rate was going to go up by 15%. The people in town didn't know that said taxpayer would not pay his fair share. There was a lot of things that people didn't know. Now that we know these things, I think it's foolish for us to go ahead and borrow more money and to put the town in more debt and to have more taxes to pay for this loan. So, I mean, I think we're just doing our job. We're doing what's best for the town of Madawaska.
I guess really, I understand
that we delay this decision until more, maybe we could do half of it. But if you want to postpone the whole project, that's fine also.
I'm going to
listen. Let me just say something. I don't. I guess really what I'm questioning is, what kind of rights do we have to be able to do this? Not that I don't agree or disagree with the idea. I understand fully that we're in a situation today that we don't have the funds that we had a year ago. I'm just asking, do we have the right to renege on what the townspeople voted in? That's what I'm after.
Gary, can you shed some light?
So I got some legal guidance on that, very, from MMA, but it's not the kind of, when you get legal advice from MMA, they're advising you on statute, state law, warrant articles, town meeting functions, things like that. MMA doesn't represent us in litigation, okay? We have to hire an attorney to do that. So my discussions with MMA legal was that, yeah, I mean, the townspeople voted it in. They're the legislative body, right? And you all are the policy, the board are the executors of that policy and of what was approved at town meeting. And so it's not clear as to whether or not this board has the authority to postpone that. Our warrant article, if you look in your agenda pack, and look, I'm straight out, whatever this board does, I'm okay with it. I just want to give you all the information so you guys can make an informed decision. The warrant article at the town meeting last year had specific timelines for when this project was going to get done. Okay. And the townspeople approved that. Can it be postponed? It'd be nice if we could have a town meeting and ask the townspeople to vote on that right now, but we can't have a town meeting, right? And so I think tonight, putting this on the agenda tonight, I don't think there's any harm in going out to bid. Okay, going out to bid doesn't contractually bind us to a contract that needs to get done. So it would be informative to this board to see what kind of pricing we might get. It would be informative no matter what. We could decide later on, maybe the circumstances will change that we could be, I don't know if we can go to town meeting in 30 days from now. But the legislative body are the ones that have decided. Now, MMA's guidance is like, well, under these COVID-19 times, well, it might be a prudent thing to do. And I'm torn, okay? And I'm torn because on the one hand, I totally agree with Don that it's not the right time to go out and be borrowing more money. Granted that this project was approved, that the way that we were financing this and cash flowing this was going to not have an effect on the mill rate, because we were, by the time the payment was due, one of our older loans for paving is going to be paid off, and we were going to reduce the capital expenditure, the annual capital expenditure for paving that we did every year, by the difference, so that the net would be the same, not to increase the mill rate. Now, if we postpone, here's the concern. I have concerns all the way around. My concern is people being able to pay their taxes. My concern is incurring more debt in these uncertain times. My concern is that we have a legislative body that acted and spoke and moved this project forward. My concern is that if we wait, that the roads are going to get worse and it's going to cost more to do these roads. I also know, having had the opportunity to serve on the Blue Ribbon Commission for Transportation in Maine, that, like especially up here in the county, a lot of projects were put on hold last year because the bids were coming in way higher than they had planned, paving projects, big ones, and that there's probably going to be more projects delayed this year because of what's going on. And so what happens in the area like up here in northern Maine, we only have a few qualified paving contractors that can do this work, and they're going to go after the DOT work before any municipal work, and we're going to be filling in their calendar, if you will, on paving days. And so what happens is on the years when DOT is heavy in projects in our area, okay, it has a potential to increase the cost or increase the bids that come in, not the number of bids, but the amount of the bids that are coming in, because there's so much work out there. So on the one hand, do I think this is the right time from a cost, what does it cost to get this job done standpoint? I think this is the best year to do it, this year and next year, because it's going to take a couple of years if we do move forward. On the other hand, I'm concerned about borrowing more money and the ability of our, taxpayers to pay. So that's where my concerns are.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. But I'd like to make 2 points. The first one is, I've got the article in front of me. It says to see if the town will vote and authorize the Board of Selectmen to borrow an amount of money not to exceed $3 million. There is no low amount, but we cannot borrow more than $3 million. So we're not tied as to, we can borrow 100,000. Technically, that's how the article reads.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's paid within, with a 15-year and interest and stuff. But the other thing I'd like to point out, and I think you guys may already know this or seen this, they're talking about a second or a fourth stimulus a bill that would, from the federal government, that would be involved with infrastructure. And my understanding is that there's no details or anything, but what if that money would be available to a municipality at either 0% or half of it as a grant, and we jump on it right now and we do what we need to do? I'm sure there's other work that we can find and get done, but what if we could get that reduced as far as the amount of, get the same work done, but with a reduction in the amount of payback that we have to do. I don't know. But
I think that's a good point, Don.
yeah, it's something to wait. We don't know, you know, they looked at this would come out pretty quick if they want to get the economy rolling pretty quick, is what I hear every night on the news. And I'm just being optimistic that maybe the town of Madawaska, state of Maine, town of Madawaska can get some of that money. But I don't know that though. But I'm leery, not just necessarily with the reduction in or the increase that we had to hit our taxpayers on the mill rate. I'm just worried about the revenues moving forward with businesses, with people having a hard time, struggling right now because of this COVID-19 thing. And we're going to see a reduction in our revenues. The state has already told us that, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but state revenue sharing is going to decrease. Am I correct? It's going to go back to what, 2008 numbers, 18 numbers?
We don't know yet what the numbers are going to be, but I mean, it was looking really, really good that we were going to get a lot more money this year. And then this whole thing hit, and you know, we were notified that by Maine Revenue Services that they usually put out 2 or 3 projections. Their last one is the one that they go with for the year, the revenue sharing. So they had only made their initial projection in February, which was looking very good. And then this whole thing hit, and with revenue sharing is 5% of sales tax collected in Maine dispersed out amongst the Maine communities. But it's based on a forecast, a revenue forecast by the forecasting committee to the state. And they look at prior year, and they look at economic indices and whatnot to make a forecast for what they think they're going to bring in for revenue for sales tax, and then they'll make their disbursement from there. So
well, if I had,
we've already been told that, you know, forget what was put out there already.
right. So that's the point I'm trying to make, that we're not going to be the high end. You know, hopefully we don't go below what we had, and we don't know that yet.
We don't.
So anyway, these are the points I'm just trying to make with all of this, and I'm a little bit leery about jumping on this full scale and saying let's go out and borrow $3 million. Now, you want to go out to bid? That's one thing, just to see what those prices look like. The article that we approved at the town meeting, it was approved at the town meeting, basically says up to $3 million. If we feel that we can swing 300,000, 500,000, 1 million, we'll have another discussion after we see what those bids look like. And maybe then, you know, this has to get done. The article says by 2020, you know, maybe our work gets, I understand, you know, when we don't do it early, we get caught with late work, late hot top, to the big hot top companies are going to do the other work first. But I'm just leery. That's my point. We're a board, we can make that decision. So any other comments from anyone?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you go out to bid, you know, I don't need a whole big explanation, but do you bid that as a whole project? Can you bid that? Do you bid it by miles? What does the bid look like, so that when we go back and look at it, how do you determine what part of it you do? Like if you do certain streets or?
Yeah, that's a good question, Lori. And the answer to that, Gary can easily say this, but I'll just give you my 5 cents worth, is that when you project what you think you want to do, you've already measured your length, you've measured your width, you know what type of base or the amount of hot top thickness you want to put in. That'll equal X amount of tons. And then you bid on tonnage. You ask them, we're going to have in-town work, and then we're going to have out-of-town work, and to a bidder that gives them a better idea what, you know, how to bid the project.
So usually,
did I say that right, Gary?
That usually comes in on a per ton cost.
Yeah, on a per ton.
It's a per ton cost per product put down.
Installed.
Yep.
Installed with tag.
Yep.
Right.
I
So
certainly,
if you give them a certain tonnage, they can pretty well give you a price without doing too much work. Their biggest variable is going to be the price that they have to pay for hot top. So on their part, it's probably not a whole lot of work to put a bid together. Because I hate to have a guy put a bid together and we're thinking about holding off for a year. You know what I'm saying? But I think on their part, it's not a whole lot of work to put a bid together. And yes, Don, if at all possible, yeah, these bids should be done like in January, February, so we could be first in line to get this done in the early spring. Otherwise, in that, it gets pushed into late fall.
Yep. I had promised 10 minutes. We're beyond that. So what are you thinking, folks? What do you want to do?
I'm
So you're asking right now to just go out to bid. Well, then, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Let's go out to bid and revisit it.
Okay, motion by Doug to go out to bid, seconded by Dave.
Second, yeah.
And then we revisit what those bids look like and make a final determination.
And then we can discuss some more how far we want to bring this project to completion.
Okay, I'm okay with that. How about you, Lori? You okay with that?
No, I'm good. I think we need more information and waiting it out for interest rates and other stuff like that is a good thing to do.
Okay. So your vote is affirmative?
Yes.
Dave is affirmative?
Yes.
Doug too?
Yes.
And mine also. Okay. That takes care of our agenda. Do we have anything else, Gary, that you want to talk about?
No, I'm all set.
Do we want to set another time for a meeting, or we'll just we'll discuss when to have another one down the road?
It's too, I mean, I don't have a lot of pressing things right now. We're operating, and so all the major things that we would have to normally work on, we sort of putting on the back burner anyway. So I think right now I don't have a time. It'd be nice to be able to work on our budget. It's hard to work on a budget when you don't know what the revenues look like, and everybody's in a holding pattern. So at this time, I would say that a couple, 3-4 weeks from now would be the next board meeting. We could post the agenda in advance.
Okay.
See how things play out.
Okay. Then at this point, folks, I want to thank all of you for being part of this tonight. I think we've taken care of some important business that needed to get taken care of. And I think some of the big ones, I think we're looking to help our businesses as best we can. And I really appreciate that. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Lori, is there a second to that?
Second.
Dave, today's battery says, yes, I want to adjourn.
My battery is
Okay.
going up there. My battery is
It's
going
going
up
up
in
now.
charge. I'm good.
Time to adjourn. Time to adjourn.
I'm
Okay,
not
all in
I'm only
favor, I'm
looking
assuming.
at,
So, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Keith, everyone. Who else is there at the town meeting?
So we
at this
we
meeting?
got Natalie recording the meeting.
Yeah.
So say hi to Nat. Hi, Nat.
I know.
And then we have our camera crew. We have Jason Boucher and Colin over here. Jason's live streaming, and Colin's doing the WWL for us.
Well, thank you folks over there too for helping out. Appreciate it. All right, we are
Okay.
adjourned.
C'est
Good night.
bon.
Good night.
Merci beaucoup. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, good night.